So, how do the Rams win? Coach, what do you have to do to win on Sunday? Well, we got to run the ball, stop the run, and win the turnover battle. From the studios of the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView. Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the January 12th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Yeah, as we all get ready for the big game, and this is the Rams' biggest game since Super Bowl 56. And I'm not slamming anybody, but you get into the whole preview. How do we win this game? Stop the run the ball, win the turnover battle. Yeah, if Kyren Williams can run and we hold Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs to minimal yardage, and we don't turn the ball over, you're going to win. But that's every game, right? That's what every coach says. And I'm not slamming anybody, and I'll slam the media about other things because I fall into the same trap, right? But you want to be fresh when you talk, and sometimes we all sound like we're interviewing a coach at halftime of a game, right? Coach, what do you have to do to win? Well, we got to stop the run the ball, win the turnover battle, right? Another thing, this is my one beef with the media, and I'm hearing this everywhere from Rams podcasters to national talk show hosts, and a lot of media is really talking a lot of neck. We used to call talking cheap stuff about trash. We used to call it talking neck back in the day. Talking a lot of stuff about Detroit head coach Dan Campbell. Again, I think I mentioned it in yesterday's sound check that, they're treating him like he's the Geico caveman, right? And I don't know if it's an attempt to convince us that McVay is the superior coach or whatever, but McVay is the superior coach. He's the proven coach here. I get it, but we don't need to degrade Dan Campbell because we want to feel better about our coach or whatever, trying to convince ourselves we got some advantage. Dan Campbell got his team to where it is right now by doing exactly the stuff he did against Dallas. And everyone's still saying that was like the worst coaching decision ever, and it wasn't. It was not the worst coaching decision ever. It was consistent with what he's always done. He's not Brandon Staley, who's Mr. Analytics, and then suddenly he's not Mr. Analytics. He's Dan Campbell, and he's going to be Dan Campbell, and they're taking on his personality. And it takes that kind of courage to break, I don't know, do you want me to say it? A generational curse in Detroit. And again, it's why Detroit scares me in terms of the Rams playing there. It's why I wanted Dallas. Dallas is soft. Dallas is privileged. Dallas is entitled. Dallas is old school money that thinks it's going to get by because of something Staubach did back in '75. And Detroit's hungry, and they got a hungry coach who fits them and is doing exactly what this team his team needs him to do, right? Now, as time goes on, that gets more measured as everything is completely flipped in Detroit. Like Sean McVay flipped everything in LA. Think about the Rams from their last playoff appearance at the end of the 2004 season all the way through 2016. And then in 1 year, McVay gets the Rams into the playoffs, right? This guy is not an idiot, okay? He's just not an idiot, all right? So if you take Dan Campbell for one, you're taking it at your own risk, okay? Let's cut right to the chase today in regards to Rams Lions. Up until Friday morning, I was leaning Lions, right? I really was. I just kept leaning. I couldn't see the Rams winning this game. Again, it's the game it's bothered me the most. I could see the Rams with a path to victory every place that they played this last back half of the season. except maybe Baltimore, which they proved me wrong. And then, the Frisco game was kind of a throwaway. But I was leaning Lions. But as I thought more about it, I thought about this. Sean McVay has not lost in the first round since he was a rookie head coach in 2017. He hasn't. The Rams are always on the road. Even at home, there's more terrible towels there than Rammy Whammies. And so the Rams are used to playing in hostile environments, even when it hurts and it's supposed to be your own stadium. So that shouldn't be an issue. Weather is not an issue because they're playing indoors. When you see what the Bills and Steelers and Chiefs and Dolphins are playing in this weekend, hey, note to Detroit. I say this about Minnesota all the time, but Detroit, you got out of the Metrodome. You should have built this new stadium that you're in. Well, it's a little older now, but when you built it designed in a way to get you to a Super Bowl instead of hosting Super Bowls, right? If Detroit had thought in that way, in that manner, Detroit would be facing the Rams on Sunday night in 14-degree weather, likely cooler, maybe a little cooler. No threat of snow, but a lot of wind. And instead, you got a Ram team that plays indoors. You get them to come and play football in your cozy confines and make the Rams feel right at home. How much of an advantage would Detroit have if this game was being played outside? Right? How much advantage do the Bills have? Have they had for years because of the games being outside? Green Bay, and there's some jackwagons out there creating a buzz that, the NFL shouldn't play games like this. They should move the Buffalo game. They should move the KC game. Hey, this is football, man. This is football. What did Cowher say? And I'm not a Bill Cowher fan. Overrated, shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. That's my opinion. But what did he say to Cordell Stewart back in the day? Hey, I'd like 75 and sunny, but that's not football, right? This is what football is, and this is why we love football. We don't want it always sanitized. And you got to keep the bean counters and the corporate guys in the suits and the softies, right? The softies of the 21st century away from the game before they try to sanitize it so much that it doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, Lions, you're missing the boat on this, and that's an advantage for the Rams. The Rams have the players, even though this team is young, that have big game experience. Matthew Stafford, Kupp, Donald, all those guys, right? The team is young, but they've got players in key spots with big game experience. Even Ernest Jones played in the Super Bowl. In fact, Ernest Jones on the Bengals' first possession in Super Bowl 56 knocked down a pass on fourth down. Remember when Cincy foolishly went for it at midfield in the first quarter on first down? It was Ernest Jones who knocked that ball down. And so that's just something to think about. This also means that while the Rams have those players, they shouldn't be too emotionally high, right? They're not playing outdoors. They're used to hostile crowds, right? They've got experience. Their head coach's experience hasn't lost in the first round since 2017. On the flip side, Detroit is young, and they will be riding a high emotionally, right? They could get too high. They could get too high. And Jared Goff might try too hard to prove that he's a good NFL quarterback, to try to prove something to McVay. And so that's been weighing on my mind this whole week. And finally, it kind of congealed a little bit this morning, and I felt like I could flip my pick. Originally, I was leaning Detroit 37-27. And then I thought Detroit last night 34-26. But this morning, I convinced myself it would be the Rams 33-28. And I give that little odd number because you got to pay respects to the Rams kicking game, meaning that they might score 5 touchdowns but miss 2 extra points, So yeah, I leaned Rams 33-28. Again, kind of boils down to what we talked about on Wednesday. Can they get to Goff, right? Can they mess with Goff's timing? The Rams' best defensive pressure comes up the middle from Aaron Donald and Kobe Durant, unless they move Aaron Donald out wide. And where are the Lions strongest? The Lions are strongest in the interior of their offensive line. And so that's a key thing right there, right? Can the Rams get to Goff? And then can they avoid the big turnover and or the devastating special teams breakdown, right? That's the whole breakdown for the Rams, right? Stafford's going to get pressure, right? And he handles pressure. Aiden Hutchinson is their key guy. And that's going to be Rob Havenstein's job. And the thing is, they don't have that complementary pass rusher in Detroit like other teams have. And so that's going to be something you want to see there for Detroit. They need that second guy that can get to the quarterback. And Aiden Hutchinson needed a strong finish. He got 5 sacks, I think, in the last 2 weeks to get to 11 sacks on the season. And so the Rams have a shot here. And either way, they're going to get pressure. But we know Stafford can handle it if he's given a shot. So I like the Rams 33-28 in this game. And so there you go from there. Around the NFL and other places, we'll start in other places. Kalen DeBoer, the Washington head coach, and as recent as 2021 was at Fresno State. You ever been to Fresno? You ever spent any time in Fresno? Boy, Fresno is hot. And the thing that's bad about Fresno is maybe the area and the town's not so bad. It's just got that name Fresno, right? I think the locals call it FNO. So he was there as recent as 2021. He spends 2 years with the Huskies, and now he's the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Bravo for Kalen DeBoer. Not bad for a guy from Millbank, South Dakota, who played at Sioux Falls College in the NAIA, where he eventually took over as the team head coach, and he won 3 titles and had 4 appearances as a head coach for Sioux Falls in the NIA. He went 67-3 there, went to Fresno and went 9-3 his second year there. I think he was part-time. He filled in midseason the previous year. And then he's been super successful in Washington, and now he's going to the Crimson Tide. I get it. I understand it. I don't think I'd want it. I don't want to be part of someone else's legacy. I want to, and that he will be, right? Because now he's got two pillars. He's got Bear Bryant and Lou Saban, or Nick Saban, not Lou Saban, Nick Saban to live up to, and he's going to have to do something the equivalent thereof to get the pressure off of him. It'll be interesting to see. I think teams will be happy and schools will be happy if their team makes the playoff, the 12-team playoff. But I think as years go on, people aren't going to be satisfied just making the playoffs. And Alabama's never going to be satisfied. So good for him. I'm sorry to see him go. I liked what he did in Washington. Jared Mayo being hired as the New England new head coach, right? Replacing Bill Belichick. I think it's a bad hire. I just do. It's like going with the easy out, right? In my line of work, it's like the senior pastor leaves your church and you hire the youth pastor because, you want to keep some continuity. And really, this was Robert Kraft's opportunity to blow it all up. I don't know if they made previous promises to Jared Mayo. I know they said they really liked him. They wanted to keep him in the family. But he's a defensive coach. He's never played or been anywhere else, right? And so what's the difference there? Maybe the only difference is that you can bring somebody in on the personnel side where he won't have the influence that Belichick had. Generally, though, this kind of move, I think this is a bad move. I think it's a bad move. This is Phil Bengtson replacing, Lombardi, right? No one knows who Phil Bengtson is, but he was the guy that was the replacement for Vince Lombardi in Green Bay, and they just kind of go away. I hope the kid does – the kid. Well, he's a kid to me. I hope he does well. I liked him as a player, but I just think it's a bad hire. It's a lazy hire by New England. I really do. For all the good that thing was at the end yesterday when they had the press conference with Belichick, I think that was a lazy hire. That leads you to also looking at the other coaching openings. We went from 8 to 7. The Seahawks, of course, Pete Carroll gone. Tennessee, Vrabel gone. Taxkins, Rivera gone. Falcons, Arthur Smith gone. Carolina, of course, Frank Wright was fired midseason. Chargers, Brandon Staley was fired midseason. And, of course, same thing with the Raiders and Josh McDaniels. My advice would be Chargers, if you can't get Jim Harbaugh, take a look at Pete Carroll. Raiders, hold on to Antonio Pierce. Carolina, I don't know what you're going to do. They say the Falcons are the front runners for Bill Belichick, and I don't understand why a team wouldn't want the Taxkins. It's got new ownership. They've got some talent there, and you have a high pick where you can draft a quarterback and really start that franchise over again I think the Texans is a lot more appealing. Falcons have some pieces, but some of those pieces now are going to start to get expensive. Kyle Pitts is going to go into his third year. He hasn't done anything yet. Drake London, same thing. I don't know. I think I'd go to Washington if I was one of these dudes. I brought it up yesterday. I thought it would be good to bring it up in front of the whole group here, and someone actually responded. I think it was Dano online when I was doing the sound check yesterday. Is Eric Metcalf. I shared how Devin Hester had 15 kick returns, punt, and kickoff for touchdowns. I think he's a Hall of Fame finalist, which I think he should be. That guy changed the game. Teams had a plan for him, and he delivered. But Eric Metcalf had 12 kick returns, 10 kickoff, 2 punt, or maybe it was the other way around. I think it was kickoff. I'm not sure. But anyway, 12 kicks returned for a touchdown. And he was a superior player offensively. And I think Devin Hester should go. And I'm not saying Metcalf is an absolute slam dunk, but you know what? That guy had a great career that I think deserves a revisit. There we go. All right, guys, I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years, and now I get to do RamView. And thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and Temple City Auto, I do RamView and I write books. And they sustain me in my job as a pastor. I pastor, that's my day job, of a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can find us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, and of course at burbankfaithvirtual.com. And my books are all on Amazon. You can check them out. I've written 2 high school football novels. They've been well received. They did well as other works that are there. And so thank you for your support. Thank you for clicking on and subscribing. Thank you for those that are checking us out on Spotify. I'll get this up on Spotify probably tomorrow morning and such. But thank you for checking us out there and just for all the support. And if you haven't subscribed on Spotify or here, please hit the click and subscribe button and maybe even share, leave comments, and ask questions, because I do enjoy answering questions. All right. I think that's the commercial. I get the commercial in. We got the commercial in. All right. Expat, USA Expat. Thank you too. Oh man, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you bearing with me yesterday in terms of the sound check. I have been asked, would you go on daily? The first few months, I started doing this a couple years ago, very small, different setup. I was just trying to get a feel for it. I did go on daily for about 2 months. I went Monday through Friday, 15-minute shows. And right now, my whole plan is to stay 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And again, where I want to be able to maybe separate, there's not going to be a period after the Super Bowl or after the Rams are bumped from the playoffs, if they are, where I'm going to go dark, because I think I want to talk the whole NFL. I want to talk free agency. I want to talk Rams roster. I want to talk the draft, and that's a lot of fun. And so that's not the time I'll be taking time off. There might be a few spots later as we get to the summer when I start working camps where I'm not as consistent with the 3 days a week, but we will be 3 days a week. I don't sense 4 days or 5 days a week in my future. There you go. Okay, let's look at some Rams additions here. If you have any questions, post them in there. Happy to answer them at the end of the show. I think it's important as we talk about being Rams fans and getting ready for this playoff game, is not to let this game be an emotional decider on how we feel about something. Remember, the Rams have gone 10-7. They shouldn't have been here, but they're here. And so what I'm saying is, don't get overwhelmed by what you see on Sunday, right? We know already what the Rams need. They need a cornerback. They need another edge. They need a kicker, right? We know that. So if Stafford throws a couple of picks, don't swallow the Kool-Aid and go with the social media that'll be all out there saying, hey, the Rams have to start looking at a new quarterback, right? It doesn't mean if Kyron Williams gets stoned on a 4th and inches or a 4th and 1 and doesn't get a first down or get the touchdown, it doesn't mean he's not good enough or that we need to get a bigger back and we should go out and get Derrick Henry or make some kind of trade. Appreciate where we're at. This team finished 10-7. They should have beat Green Bay. I think we're all in agreement on that. That would make them 11-6. They should have beat Pittsburgh. That would make them 12-5 right now, right? They should have beat Cincy. I put that one on McVay. They should have beat Cincy because he kept running Zachary Thomas out there, not giving him any help against Trey Hendrickson. And if they had beaten Cincy, they'd have been 13-4. Now that's 13-4, and that's not a reach. But you want to reach a little further. We took Baltimore into sudden death, into overtime, and we lost on a punt return, and we could have won that game. Philly was not overly impressive, and it was a couple of turnovers in week 2, one by Kyron Williams, a bad route by Van Jefferson, and the Rams could have beaten Frisco, right? So this team easily could have been better, and so we're 10-7. They're 10-7. Just try not to get too worked up if something goes crazy on Sunday night. The Super Bowl window for the Rams officially opens at the start of the new league year, March 13th. The Super Bowl window, believe it or not, even though they're in the playoffs, is not necessarily open right now. The Rams could win this week, and they're not going to be expected to win, right? If they have to go to Dallas, they're not going to be expected to win. They go to Frisco, they're not going to be expected to win. If they go to the Super Bowl, they're not going to be expected to win unless they face Houston or some real miracle team, right? So this isn't when the window is open. In 2021, they needed to beat the Cardinals. They were expected to. They should have beat Tampa Bay. They should have beat Frisco. But this team is different, so let's not get too worked up. The Super Bowl window opens up at the start of the new league season on March 13th, and we could work on getting that corner, that edge, that kicker, and everything else. Latest Rams injury update. I think it's pretty much been out there. Everyone knows. All listed as questionable. Jordan Fuller, Tyler Higbee, Kevin Dodson, Joe Noteboom, Troy Reeder. Fuller, they said, is going to be a game time decision. Higbee and Dotson are expected to play. They got banged up shoulders. Noteboom still has the questionable the plantar fasciitis, and I hope he's ready to go. And Troy Reeder is questionable because I think they said it was a knee. I'm not sure what they said. For the Lions, it all comes down to Sam Laporta's knee, and everything's sounding positive. He was a full participant today. Maybe he won't be full strength, but he is a full participant. And the one that was interesting to me, I don't know if too many people have talked about, is the Lions center, Frank Ragnow. He's the top-rated center. He's been the top-rated center in the NFC for a couple of years, and he's had a whole bunch of issues, his knee, his toe, his back, but he was a full participant, and he's ready to go for Sunday. And that's a big deal because that's where Kobe Turner and I hope I didn't reference Kobe Turner as Kobe Durant earlier, but Kobe Turner and Aaron Donald play. And so, this is a deep team in the interior of the offensive line, and Frank Ragnow's presence there makes it pretty difficult. And right now, they're scheduled to play. All right, let's look at the playoff games real quick here. Expat got that. Tim Burns, I see that there. I promise, guys, I'll be answering those questions here in a minute. Saturday, Browns going to the Texans. I got Cleveland 24-21. It's the first playoff meeting between these teams, and Houston could win this, but I'm going to go with Joe Flacco and Myles Garrett over the rookie coach, rookie quarterback, and a team getting their feet wet, right? Flacco is a Super Bowl quarterback, and experience, USA expat. You're right. It does matter. Dolphins, Chiefs. I got the Chiefs winning 19-10. Supposedly going to be one of the coldest weather games in NFL history. Sorry, Dolphins. I don't see you winning this game. Like I said yesterday, if Mike McDaniel, or the other day, if Mike McDaniel could pull this off, he deserves Coach of the Year. All time in the playoffs, the Chiefs are 0-3 against the Dolphins. There's the iconic Southern Death Christmas Day game from 71, which I didn't see. I just read about it because I became a fan in 72. It was the beginning of the Dolphin dynasty with the premium kick, but it was also the Ed Podolak game. And if anyone remembers the Ed Podolak game or knows about Ed Podolak, he did it all. Kick returns, punt returns, catching the ball, running the ball. I think he set some kind of record. But Chiefs lost that day in Kansas City. In 1991, they lost in Miami, where Dan Marino drove them late to take a 17-16 lead. And Steve DeBerg was leading the Chiefs on a potential game-winning drive. I think Nick Lowry was still their kicker in those days. I think he was. And they would have won that game. But left guard David Zott got called for holding, killing Steve DeBerg's potential for a game-winning drive. And I'm a big Steve DeBerg fan, so I remember that bitterly. And then on New Year's Eve, 1994, it was Joe Montana versus Dan Marino. Dolphins won 27-17, and that was a wrap on Joe Montana's career. Sunday's games, Steelers-Bills. I'm going with the Bills. I wanted to root for the Steelers, Steeler fan Rob in Missouri, but that weather, right? It's bad. I'm going to go with Buffalo 12-10. Pittsburgh leads the postseason matchups between these teams 2-1. The Steelers have great running backs, right? And it's going to be interesting because the playing conditions will be something similar to Ice Station Zebra. So I think the Steelers have a chance. I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but just that little bit of difference between Mason Rudolph and Josh Allen. That's the difference for me in a 12-10 game. Packers, Cowboys. I wanted to pick the Packers. I want to. My heart wants to pick the Packers. In the end, I didn't like the Packers defense. I went with the Cowboys 35-22. These teams are tied in postseason play 4-4. The Packers have won the last two. Those with under Aaron Rodgers. They also won the first two in the whole Vince Lombardi, Bart Starr era. But yeah, this is a young team with a young quarterback with Dan Quinn, who's going to make a nice impression before he goes off and gets a head coaching job. Cowboys are capable of swallowing the jalapeno, but I just feel like I need to go with Dallas in this one. I talked about the Rams and Lions on Sunday night. Monday night, you've got the Eagles, Buccaneers. Tampa Bay leads this series postseason 3-2, including the first ever. I saw this one. Bucks beat the Eagles in their first playoff appearance in 1979. Ricky Bell, USC, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns in a 24-17 victory. That set up the NFC title game a week later against the Rams. The Rams won 9-0. How good was that Rams defense, right? Again, the Eagles are struggling, and they could win this game, but it doesn't mean I have to pick them. And so there's just nothing good. I also saw somewhere on one of the links I saw that said A.J. Brown removed all of his Eagle stuff from his social media page. What a selfish, nasty player, right? You don't have to be happy. You can say you want out, but the week of a playoff game, you pull down all your social media and send that kind of message. That to me is you're a bum, and I don't want you on my team. I don't care how great you are, but you're a bum. It kind of makes you wonder, like, maybe Tennessee was right to get rid of him. And he's an absolute beast. He's a talent, but that's a selfish move for a team that's holding things together by a thread right now. Just something to think about. All right, on this day in NFL history, okay? On this day, this is a fun one. In 2017, the Rams hired Sean McVay, right? He was hired on this day. There's someone from my church who actually works on the UCI campus, and they met him, and they said he's just this little cocky dude. And I said, it's the Rams. What else are they going to get? It's not like they're going to get a frontline coach, right? And what an inspired move it was to hire Sean McVay. I don't think any of us thought. And what an inspired move at the same time to bring in the veteran Wade Phillips as a DC for 3 years. Something to think about. And I'm going to throw this out at you too. In 2017, McVay is hired as a head coach, right? 2 seasons later, on the same day, Sean McVay's Rams beat the Cowboys 30-22 in a divisional playoff game. That was the C.J. Anderson game. He rushes for 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley ran for 115 yards and a touchdown. Dante Fowler got a big sack, kind of pertaining to what he was going to do in New Orleans. And then, of course, the Cowboys kicker that day, on this day, January 12th, 2018, or it would have been maybe 2019, would be Brett Maher. Brett Maher was the kicker for the Cowboys on that day. And yet, 2 years after being hired as head coach, not only had he had the Rams in the playoff the following year, but the next 2 years later, he had the Rams advancing to the NFC Championship game. Just an amazing hire by the Rams. Just something to keep in mind, and wanted to throw that out at you, not to drive anybody away, but tomorrow, January 13th, is the anniversary of the Rams hiring Jeff Fisher. And I don't think I want to do a Jeff Fisher revisit and try to, rectify his career or his image like we did with Ray Malavasi, like I think I want to do with Mike Martz. But I will say this: after the Rams, went 3-13 in 2007, 2-14 in 2008, 1-15 in 2009, had that brief blip and won 7 games with Spagnuolo in 2010. And then everything fell apart again in 2011. Fisher is that kind of guy that you need to bring in to stable the ship. For 2 years, I'll take 7 wins after going 1-15, but then it just didn't get any better. And so I feel bad that Fisher takes all that heat. He should take the heat, but there were some good things he did there. Just wanted to throw that out. Also tomorrow, January 13th, is the anniversary in 2006 of the passing of Ron Jesse, who we talked about recently. And then also 2016, 10 years after the Ron Jesse passing, was the passing of Lawrence Phillips in prison at the age of 40. And that is pure tragedy. There we go. I will not talk about January 14th, 1990. That's the day the Rams lost the NFC title game to Frisco 30-3. And I always liken that was the end of the original Los Angeles Rams, right? The phantom sack, everything, Ronnie Lott tipping away that flea flicker pass, getting just a field goal on that opening drive. That to me was the end because everything was downhill from there. It was almost like that was the day they got on the road to go to St. Louis. And it was just looking back at it, it was kind of heartbreaking that day. We didn't know, but that's what it was. All right. It was a stone groove. Okay, let's look at a couple of questions we got here. Tim Burns. USA expat, never underestimate playoff experience. Yeah, and I think that's what kind of put me over the top with the Rams expat because I didn't want to play Detroit. Detroit scares me. Detroit's a really good team. Detroit could beat you tight. Detroit can blow you out with some of that talent. Amon St. Brown, that's tough, right? And if Jared Goff stays upright, that's tough. But what's not going to shake the Rams veterans or their coaching staff is the location, the magnitude of a playoff game. There's no weather to deal with. And hopefully playing to their advantage is a sky-high Detroit team that maybe loses a little bit of focus. And that was kind of like the deciding factor for me. So, hey, go Rams, right? Tim Burns, looking back at the trade, we got the ring, and Detroit has a treasure of players and a playoff regular for the next half decade. Rams 41, Detroit 38. Absolutely. I'll agree with you. It was a great trade for both teams, helped put Detroit back in the land of the living, and it got the Rams over the top. And that, again, what a gutsy move. McSneed made the move. Now I say McSneed made the move, but really in some ways you got to credit Sneed. Sneed was the guy that traded the picks to get to number 1 in 2016 to draft Jared Goff. But Sneed was the guy that also listened to McVay and saw with his own eyes that there was a ceiling on Goff and decided to make the bold move. And the other part of that, again, don't sell short, Stan Kroenke for signing off on the deal, right? For signing off on the deal and at the right time to bring Stafford. I remember I wrote in a column that offseason, I said, expect the 49ers to go after Matthew Stafford. I did. I wrote a column because I thought Stafford was done in Detroit and some team, and I know you knew Garoppolo wasn't enough to get the 49ers over the top, and I was fearful the 49ers would go after Stafford because the Rams were so hamstrung by Goff's contract at that time and everything. But, wow, it really has worked out. And that's the thing I think I mentioned a couple days ago. Maybe I mentioned it on Monday, Tim, is that this could be a rivalry, right? This could be a budding rivalry going forward in the future. I think the Rams have shown that they can have an off year. They can have a year of ultimate injury like last year. They can have an off year like they had in 2019. But this is a team that showed that under this leadership, the McSneed reign, the Kroenke ownership, this is a team that's always going to be competitive, kind of like the Steelers, solid consistency. They're always going to be competitive. They're not going to bottom out in any way. And so that's really good. So I think going forward, the Rams are going to be there. And I think the Lions are too, because I think Brad Holmes did a great job. It's nice to see the Rams can survive without Brad Holmes because that was a big question lingering in people's minds when Brad Holmes left. How much of a part of it was he? He was a big part. but he's also showing that he's his own man, and he's doing a great job in Detroit. And there you go. I think the biggest hangup for Detroit and the Rams going forward and being teams that, okay, are these going to be teams that are banging against each other? I think Jared Goff goes into the last year of his contract next year, and then the Lions are going to have to make a choice. Is Goff enough? Is Goff enough? And then the Rams, because of the aging of Matthew Stafford, that's going to be interesting too, right? I definitely think for next year and in 2025, barring, no complete breakdown or something, those years, 24 and 25, are going to be Super Bowl window years for the Rams. And you have to consider for Detroit, the way they're trending, they will be as well. But they are going to hit a crossroads, I think, before the Rams will with their quarterback, because you have to decide if Goff is the guy that you want to keep. USA expat, my wish versus the Lions, make up for a lack of kicker by creating multiple turnovers. Go Rams. There you go, right? I'll buy that. The other aspect of it is too, as some folks have said it, just go for two on every play. Just go for two, right? So yeah, go for two. Just don't even put it in the hands of Brett Maher. But there is an irony there, right? That Brett Maher was the kicker for the Cowboys on this day, 5 years ago when the Rams and Cowboys played in the first round of the playoffs. USA expat, didn't McVay meet the Staffords on vacation, talk, and agree to call Kroenke? Yeah, there was stuff there that was like they met on vacation. Now, I'm going to be a little more conspiratorial on this, is that I'm going to guess that McSnead got together. When I say McSnead, I mean Les and Sean. They said, you know what, man? Stafford's going to be down there in Mexico. You know what? I'm just going to stumble into him, right? This is the conspiracy side of me. And then I'll just start the conversation. Yeah, you do that, right? And then they worked it all out and stuff. And then they got Kroenke to buy and stuff. I know when the trade happened, I didn't think it was possible because of Goff's contract. But when you offer a team 2 number ones and a starting quarterback, they do have a tendency to be more agreeable, right? Tim Burns, 16 missed Ram kicks this year. It's a nightmare. Yeah, it's been a bad year. Yeah, what can you say, right? But, you look back, I think these kickers have become so proficient that if you go back to the 70s, some of these kickers were missing 10 field goals, 12 field goals in a year. And of course, the extra point was not at the, 15 and thus a 33-yard kick. But yeah, kicking is changed. I'm a proponent, and I'm going to say this before I let you guys go. I'm going to say this, that I won't make an argument. I won't die on this hill. I think they should eliminate all the kickers. I think that if you're going to be your team has a kicker or a punter, I think they should be one of your starting 22 or maybe your starting 25, right? And that way you're not so dependent on the kick. You got to get it across the goal line. If you remember back in the day, well, even before any of us were, they used to talk about quarterbacks being a triple threat. He can kick the ball, pass the ball, run the ball. And right now it's basically pass and run. But it would be kind of cool. Just grandfather in, tell the teams that you can keep the kicker you have, but it would cause players to be more rounded. Now, can you imagine if Stafford, for example, it's not going to be Stafford, but if Stafford was a kicker and he lines up to kick and the ball snapped directly to him and he makes a pass, it would create all kinds of different things. So there we go. I don't know, just my idea. All right. Hatter's House, 710, go Lions. Hey, you clicked on earlier, I think. Hey, I'm going to tell you this. I'll say this right now. Rams lose on Sunday night. My team, I'm rooting for the Lions. I'm going to be rooting for the Lions. I like Brad Holmes. I do not dislike Jared Goff. And I'm going to root for Dan Campbell to expose the frauds in the KBM, the Kiss Butt Media. Hatter's House 710. I still thumbs up for the stream. Thank you so much, man. That's really cool of you. And hopefully we'll get to know you better as time goes on. Let's share your thoughts and everything. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on. I'm going to bail out of here while I can. I know 10 of you, some of you are just clicked on. I'd love to stick around. And everything, but I probably should let you go. We're hitting the 40-minute mark. Hatter's House, 710. I live in LA, lifelong Rams fan. My family is all Rams and Raiders, so I'm the oddball. So I want to know, how did you become? Now you're drawing me in. Every time I think I'm out, they keep pulling me back in. How did you become a Rams fan? right? How did you become a Rams fan? Don't tell me it was Chuck Long. Don't tell me it was Scott Mitchell, Joey Harrington. I used to like Greg Landry, but he was always hurt, right? I'd love to know how you're a Rams fan. So if you get a chance to drop that in there, please do. And guys, I'll give you 1 minute. If anyone else has another question, Barry Sanders. Okay, that's legit. Okay, I can get Barry Sanders making you a fan, right? I get that totally. Lions, not Rams. Okay, Pastor Young, Rams house. Okay, is that the Rams house? Okay, I got that. There you go. Pastor Young, I'm a pastor. I'd like to know what church you go to. There we go. Guys, now I'm going to go. All right. When I start the intro music here, I got 10 seconds, exit music. I got 10 seconds to get out. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on. Please hit like. Please hit the subscribe button. Share. Tell your friends about it. I think we've got something unique here between us and you. That's why I don't have a partner. So it's us and you, right? And we'll go from there. God bless. Take care. And we will talk to you soon.